So yeah, I have this immense privilege of being a faculty member and a teacher and a scholar, and working with these very talented students and postdocs and students going from all the way from undergraduate students to PhD students. In my lab is right now we have about 25 people total, and it's what gets me up in the morning is just the exciting work that they are doing, where I have a little bit of a say in terms of how to move the needle forward and to think about the impact that they are going to make in terms of bringing new medicines to the clinic. Can we make a drug therapy safer and more effective? And so when you think about drugs, generally medicines, we always wonder, how does medicine reach its intended destination? For example, if you're treating a cancer and the cancer is located in the brain, how can the medicine know how to go to the right place and then not go to the wrong place? And so our effort is really focused on developing these technologies that help these medicines reach their target area. And in today's world, we are seeing two interesting paradigms. One where these medicines that are very potent and extremely effective, but have very poor solubility in water. And since blood is our most important conduit to carry drugs to different parts of the body, if the water solubility is not there, drugs cannot go using blood as a conduit. So we have to create technologies that help to make sure that these insoluble drugs can still be trafficked to the right place. On the other side, we are seeing this incredible innovation in genetic medicines. For example, the mRNA vaccines for COVID. mRNA is a very large molecule. It is incredibly labile and doesn't go into cells, doesn't traffic by itself. So we need, again, delivery vehicles that helps to get these molecules to the right place and transform those cells and produce, as in the context of the COVID vaccine, the specific proteins that then trigger our immune system to recognize the virus and prevent us from getting it. No, I got into pharmaceuticals because so I came to the United States in 1983, and I was initially thinking about going to med school, but realizing that in the US you had to have an undergraduate degree before you could go to med school. And so I said, oh, let me get into pharmacy. And then I started working on co-op at Bethesda and learned a lot about pharmacy profession. But then this research opportunity came about in my last year. And that just changed my whole thinking process, that instead of working in a retail or community pharmacy or a hospital pharmacy, I could basically go into grad school and ultimately think about a research career. Inventors, for students who are interested in, get that passion, think about a problem that you could make a solution for, and then continue to move in that direction. For me, initially it started with this idea that we could make cancer drugs safer. And that we knew about the problem, and then we started to explore what are the ways to make these drugs safer and still retain the efficacy. And that triggered this excitement. Well, you can also do that for cancer, but you can also do that for some of the neurodegenerative diseases, maybe even for infectious diseases, maybe even for some of the other psychiatric and other types of diseases. So you start to expand these questions as you go on, but initially everything starts from that fundamental question: how can you make treatment better in medicine? But for other fields of science, other fields of engineering, again, it starts from the problem side. You always want to think about what is the problem I'm trying to solve, and then how do I come up with the right solution. We are in this wonderful ecosystem of Boston and Cambridge and surrounded by medical research institutions, hospitals, biomedical science companies, especially industries in pharmaceutical science, as well as in devices and medical technologies. And that ecosystem that we are in is really interesting for me because I get to work with some of the greatest minds. I collaborate with clinicians, and they come up with some of the medical problems and say, we have this unique opportunity to solve this important medical problem, and we are understanding from the clinical side, and then we do the research at the preclinical level. Similarly, I work with industries in trying to ensure that we are able to bring our ideas towards fruition, towards the actual translation to the clinic. And I work with students and postdocs and all of the other areas. So that ecosystem that Northeastern has created for me here and allow me to utilize my knowledge and my skills in order to develop these technologies. I think that's really the most exciting part of being in this institution and being in Boston. And then Northeastern is expanding significantly. We are no longer just Boston centric. We are going to Miami and Seattle and Arlington and all the other, and even London and Vancouver and Toronto. And as you think about the reach to all of these different parts of the world, um, it's just absolutely phenomenal because we are no longer able to just look at our own geography and say what are the problems that we are solving, but think about the global problems. Think about some of the challenges that are faced in other parts of the world, and ask what can we do to make a difference. And I think that's really the thing that really gets me, up in the morning and think about some of these challenges, and then come to work here and see how I can help to improve and solve these challenges. So, one of the interesting things that I'm very excited about is the opportunity, again, through this collaborative partnership with physicians, with industry, is to try to expand Northeastern's work area and what we do, and seeing whether we could take some of our ideas that are fairly embryonic when it comes from an academic group. Most of our work is either funded by the National Institutes of Health, and we tend to ask these early questions. But then in pharmaceutical science, and especially in drug development, you have to follow some of the additional experiments that needs to be done. So when we want to translate our findings towards clinical path, we go through this valley of death that's mostly characterized by a number of different fields. And what I'm trying to do is create a bridge there so that we are able to translate it a lot better. And I'm working with the provost office here, as well as colleagues in Burlington at the Northeastern campus, to see how we can create enterprise there, a laboratory, an innovation laboratory that takes ideas from faculty members and create additional data packages that convinces industry and other stakeholders to come and license those patents, think about potentially how to translate those technologies out of Northeastern, create a revenue stream for the institution and for the PIs themselves, and then allow that revenue to seed additional newer projects so that we can then continue to spur and innovate more and more here in the Boston and other regional campuses, but have this partnership develop even stronger. And that's something I feel very passionate about. I feel like we have a unique opportunity, especially being in Boston, being in this ecosystem, that if we need to develop these ideas and bring them towards the benefit of patients, we need those partnerships. And that's what I'm trying to do next. They have been tremendously helpful. I am, just absolutely in awe with working with Jen and others at CRI. I have the Spark Fund, which is catalyzing some of the research work that we're doing right now, especially in oral nucleic acid delivery. I work with CRI in terms of licensing some of the patents that we already have. And then I'm working with CRI in creating this innovative ecosystem at Northeastern so that we can then continue to foster greater collaboration. And then not just for me in my lab, but other faculty members. Because we have, right now, drug delivery research spans 5 different colleges at Northeastern. There are almost about 20 different researchers at Northeastern who are developing technologies that are incredibly innovative, solving some of the most important problems And we need to make sure that these technologies get towards the path to make a difference in lives of patients. And that process sometimes feels daunting because of the cost involved. It takes about $1 billion to get a drug into the clinic. We just don't have that luxury as a faculty member, so we need to create it.